So what's up, everyone? Welcome back to James Off the Cuff. Gonna be very off the cuff video today because I haven't got any kind of notes, talking points. I'm just gonna speak from the thoughts that are in my head, and hopefully you can stick around and keep up with where this is going. But I wanted to discuss feeling like you're an outsider regardless of where you are and where you're from. I know that for myself, I've always felt like I'm an outsider. Um, and it's a weird feeling to have, and it's a weird feeling to acknowledge from a very young age. I would say, if I remember way back, it stems back from when I was growing up. I grew up as the only boy in my household in terms of siblings, with two older sisters. And it always felt as though they had each other, and I was trying to just fit in essentially as the quote unquote baby brother. So from the jump, I never really felt like I belonged in that dynamic, should I say, because they were girls, they could do girly things. I could try to do girly things with them, which I did in the end to try and fit in. But I always felt like I was the third wheel, should I say. And then if I think about my formative years when I've been in primary school, I went to a primary school where there wasn't that many black people. I think in the first year one, I might have been the only, no, I was the only black boy in my class. Um, so again, I felt like an outsider. It was predominantly Irish. Um, Actually, there was one other black guy in my class, um, but it was very obvious that we were the other. So I guess from that, I instantly felt like an outsider. Um, and then I went through a period of having really close guy friends in primary school and then really close girlfriends. And then in those like experiences, I never really quite felt like I belonged playing with the girls, and I never really quite felt like I belonged playing with the boys. It was a really weird feeling, but for some reason, I was popular amongst both groups. Um, but I would go back and forth playing with those different social circles until maybe year five, whereby we all kind of started to hang around with each other and play with each other. But I never quite felt like I felt in either, which was very bizarre, which could also stem from me identifying with myself and my sexuality as a young boy. And then fast forward to secondary school, where I went to all boys secondary school. Um, Story for another day, but an all boys secondary school, which I had a lot of fun. I was speaking to someone the other day and just talking about how much I loved secondary school and how much I was able to really just enjoy myself. I don't think I've laughed that much again in my life ever since secondary school. It's all boys secondary school. Didn't feel like I really fit in. None of my friends from my primary school went to the secondary school, and I kind of just had to make peace that I was very different from everyone else. Um, I had my own interests. I listened to different music. Um, I even think I dressed a little bit differently to other boys in secondary school. So I was slowly just having to accept I'm a little bit different than the rest. Um, but because of that, because I didn't really follow suit and because I was a little bit out of the norm, I think people kind of just gravitated towards me. And it's not like I was really shouting for anyone's attention or anyone's validation. I was just being myself the best way I knew how to be to survive secondary school. Um, and those are some great years for me because I made some of my closest friends from secondary school. So people I've known since I've been like 11, 12 years old. So yeah, I guess there's something to say for being yourself. You will attract the right energy that's meant to be in your life. And then when we got to college, again, I felt like the outsider because there was new people. It wasn't just people from my secondary school. There's people from the school across the road. There's people from other secondary schools um, in London. So there was other characters that was added to the TV show, and it just felt again like I don't know where I belong. Um, yeah, don't know where I belong. I was also going through some things at home whereby my mum had passed away. My dad was in a hospice, and I was living at home by myself for a good, I want to say 9 months until he passed away. So it kind of just felt like, as much as I wanted to enjoy myself in college, I couldn't really fully let go and be carefree because I had all these other thoughts in my head that I couldn't really come to my friends to talk about it because their reality was completely different. You know, I was worrying about whether the gas and electricity was going to run out. Have I topped it up today? What am I going to cook for dinner? I had to really parent myself. So instantly I felt different from everyone else. Funnily enough, I made another really good friend in college who I've always known her from when I've been in secondary school, but she was also going through a similar experience in her home, whereby she was living by herself. So we kind of bonded on that, and it made me realize that I wasn't alone in this journey, and this situation isn't just unique to me. Being 17, living at home by yourself, um, other people go through it as well. So that was reassuring. And then fast forwards to when I went to university, I just felt like a fish. I felt like a fish out of water. Um, I was very different to everyone in my university. Um, and that was also around the time when I was really coming to terms with who I was as a person, my beliefs, my values, my sexuality, my opinions on how people spoke of other people. Those were really becoming ingrained into who I was as a person. So naturally, you start to feel different. You be in a room full of people, drinking, eating food, conversations going on, and every little thing that's being said you don't agree with, or every little thing that's being said you're thinking, why are we even talking about this? This is so low vibrational. Um, but at that stage, I've already acknowledged that I was different. So I didn't, and not been different in a way whereby I was better than them, just different in the way whereby how I felt about things in the world was just very different. So that was an interesting situation and experience for me. And then after university, after I graduated, um, I also felt very different because most people had the luxury of going back home to their mum and dad's um, after university. And again, I was by myself again. I had to think about things that a lot of people at that time that I knew weren't thinking about. So I instantly felt very different. Fast forward a couple more years whereby I started to have friends who weren't straight, and I was going to places that were more tailored to LGBTQ people. And one experience in particular was when I got to the door, the bouncer said to me, "You do know this is a gay club?" And I went, "I know, I am gay." And he looked at me like, "Are you sure?" So I was already apprehensive going to those sort of um, going to those sorts of environments because I wasn't fully comfortable with who I was at the time. I was just starting to get to terms and starting to feel more comfortable with my sexuality. So to have that before you go inside, it's already making you feel like, am I meant to be here? Am I really meant to be here? So again, I feel like an outsider. Um, and now let's just fast forward to where I'm at now in life. I'm 35. I'm currently on paper single. People around me, starting to get married. People are starting to have kids. Um, those are things I haven't done. Whether I want to do them is TBC. But you really notice that going to things such as baptisms and people's milestone birthdays, you realize that, okay, like what everyone else is doing right now is very different to you. Your setup in your life is very different to most most people that you're going to come into contact with in social settings. So it's an interesting one at the moment. I no longer feel like I need to do those things because I'm not about to have a child and get married for the sake of it, just to fit in with society and what people are doing now. Um, it kind of puts you in a position whereby, because you are the outsider, you are the person on the outside looking in, and it brings a whole new different perspective to conversations that happen when you're out. A whole new perspective to how you see things on a day-to-day basis. um, and I think for that reason you're able to really not only just empathize but put yourself in other people's shoes when they're talking about situations, because you're so used to having an experience that's different from everyone else. And I feel like it's a place of acceptance when you get there. It's a place of security once you get there and acknowledge that you are different. I recently said to someone in my gym that I know I'm different, and he said, "No, no, no, you shouldn't say that." I said, "But being different isn't a bad thing. It's just knowing that for the most part, you're quite different to the regular person of your age group where you're currently living." So when I start to really acknowledge that, there's a lot of strength in realizing your differences from other people. And I think once you hone into that, the possibilities are endless in terms of what will be attracted to you and you will what will be attracted to you, and the energy that you put out into the universe. Um, Things will align with you much more than they did before once you accept that you're different. So, yeah, I think that's all I had to say on this topic today. Um, it's just something that I've had on my mind for a while. I've never really quite vocalized it um, in such a chronological order and sequences of events in my life. But yeah, um, if anyone else feels like an outsider, um, embrace it. Embrace it, because yeah, your uniqueness is what makes you as an individual, and there are people, or there will be people, that will accept you for that. So yeah, if you enjoyed any of this ramble, feel free to subscribe. And yeah, I upload a video every Monday, just random things that come into my head. We're talking anything from mental health, um, building wealth for yourself. What else do I talk about? A range of things in the media, um, everyday life things, should I say. So yeah, if you want to tune into any of this, feel free to subscribe and yeah, join me on this journey. Thanks for stopping by. Take care. Bye for now.